You walk through the front door after a long day, and before you can even set your bag down, your dog looks up at you, plants their front paws forward, drops their chest low to the ground, lifts their tail into the air, and holds that slow, deliberate pose, right there, just for you. You probably smiled when it happened. Maybe you said something like, "Aw, are you stretching?" and moved on with your evening. But what if that moment meant something far deeper than you ever realized? What if that simple, beautiful gesture was one of the most sincere things your dog has ever said to you, in the only language they have? Today, we are going to slow way down and look at something most dog owners see every single day but almost never truly understand. We are going to talk about why your dog stretches when they see you, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at that moment the same way again. Let's start at the very beginning, because the first thing we need to do is separate two things that look almost identical but come from completely different places. There is a physical stretch, and then there is what animal behaviorists call a greeting bow, and understanding the difference between the two is really the key to everything we are going to talk about today. A physical stretch is something your dog does for themselves. When a dog has been lying in one position for a while and they stand up, their muscles are tight, their joints need to reset, and their body naturally moves through a stretch to wake everything back up. It's automatic. It's biological. It's the same reason you reach your arms above your head after you have been sitting at a desk too long. Nobody is there for that stretch. Nobody is the audience. It's just your body doing what it needs to do. Now, a greeting bow is something else entirely. The greeting bow happens at a specific moment when you arrive. It's not triggered by how long the dog has been resting or where they are in the room. It's triggered by you. You walk in, and they perform it, often with their eyes locked right on your face, tail moving, energy shifting. The behavior is directed. It has a target. And that target is someone their brain has marked as significant. This distinction matters enormously, and here is why. When your dog does the greeting bow, it is not just their body doing something involuntary. It is a choice, a signal, a form of communication that is aimed, with purpose, at you. And here is where it gets genuinely fascinating, because this behavior is not something all dogs share equally with their wild relatives. Wolves and feral dogs, animals that live outside of close human relationships, rarely perform this directed bow toward people the way domestic dogs do. That tells researchers something important. This behavior, in the form we see it in our pets, appears to be something that develops specifically within the relationship between dogs and humans. Over thousands of years of living alongside us, domestic dogs evolved this signal as a way to communicate with the people in their lives. That means when your dog bows to greet you, they are performing a gesture that is in some ways uniquely designed for you. Not just for humans in general, but for people who matter to them specifically, which brings us to the next layer of this, and it is one that I think will genuinely surprise you. When your dog stretches and presses their front paws into the floor, into the couch, into the rug near your feet, they are doing something invisible that you would never notice unless you knew to look for it. Dogs have scent glands located between their paw pads. These glands release pheromones, chemical signals that carry social information, and when your dog extends their paws and pushes them down during that greeting stretch, they are leaving a microscopic signature in your space. Researchers call this kind of behavior affiliation marking, and what it represents is your dog literally weaving their scent into the environment around you. They are saying, in the most physical way they know how, "I am here, and this space is ours together." Think about what that means for a moment. Your dog is not just happy to see you. They are actively reinforcing the social bond between you, using their body, using chemistry, using a biological tool that most owners never even know exists. The next time your dog stretches near you and presses their paws down with that slow intentionally, you are watching them mark you as part of their world. Now let's talk about something else that can tell you a great deal about your dog's inner life, and that is who they do this for. Because one of the most interesting things about the greeting bow is that dogs are often highly selective about it. Some dogs will perform this gesture for one specific person in the household and not for others, or they will do it for certain people with noticeably more frequency and intensity than they do for others. If you have ever noticed that your dog seems to have a slightly different greeting for you compared to other people in the house, this is likely not your imagination. What that selectivity reflects is what behaviorists describe as an attachment hierarchy. Dogs form deep bonds with their primary attachment figures, which are usually the people who provide the most consistent care, companionship, and emotional safety in their lives. The greeting bow is one of the ways a dog expresses where someone falls within that hierarchy. If your dog regularly performs this bow when they see you, it is a marker of trust, of emotional synchronization, and of a connection that goes well beyond the surface level. That dog has essentially told you, through their body, that you occupy a special place in how they understand their world. There is another dimension to this that I love, and it has to do with where the stretch happens. Have you ever noticed that your dog sometimes positions themselves directly in your path? Right in a doorway, or at the top of the stairs, or just far enough into the hallway that you basically have to acknowledge them to get by? This is not an accident. Dogs are remarkably socially intelligent, and positioning themselves in a spot where you cannot reasonably walk past without stopping is a deliberate strategy to capture your attention. Some researchers describe it as calculated social engineering, which sounds very elaborate for a dog, but honestly, if you have ever been stopped in your tracks by a perfectly timed greeting bow, you know it works. Your dog figured that out. And they repeat what works. Let's talk about mornings, because this is when a lot of owners see the greeting bow at its most consistent, and there is a beautiful biological reason for that. Dogs are extraordinarily attuned to the rhythms of the people they live with. Over time, dogs tend to synchronize their sleep-wake cycles with their owners, which means they are often shifting from rest to alertness at roughly the same time you are. The morning stretch, in this light, is more than physical. It is a kind of transition ritual. Your dog is moving from their private, resting state, the quiet hours when they are in their own world, into the active social mode where you are present and engaged. The stretch is the physical reset that bridges those two states. It is the moment their body announces that the social day has begun, and that announcement is often made directly to you. When you think about all of these layers together, the deliberate signal, the scent marking, the selectivity, the strategic positioning, the synchronized biology, what emerges is a picture of a dog who is engaged in an ongoing, nuanced conversation with you that most of us have been too busy to fully hear. Now, there is one more thing we need to address, because not every dog does this, and if yours doesn't, you might be sitting here wondering what that means. First, let me say clearly, the absence of this behavior does not mean your dog loves you less, or that your bond is weaker, or that something is wrong. There are several very different reasons why a dog might not show this particular signal. The first is stress. Cortisol, the hormone associated with anxiety and tension, can suppress a lot of relaxed, expressive behaviors in dogs. A dog who lives in an environment that feels uncertain or who carries chronic low-level stress for any number of reasons may simply not feel relaxed enough to express themselves this openly. The greeting bow requires a baseline of comfort. It requires a dog who feels safe enough to be expressive, and not every dog is in that place all the time. The second reason is something quieter and honestly a little heartbreaking when you understand it. Dogs communicate. They send signals constantly. But if those signals are consistently met with no response, if the dog stretches and bows and nobody acknowledges them, they eventually learn to stop trying. This is called learned silence, and it is not a reflection of the dog's capacity for connection. It is a reflection of what they have been taught to expect when they reach out. If you have a quieter dog who doesn't seem to perform this kind of greeting, it is worth reflecting on whether their past experiences, or even your current habits, have given them reason to believe that this kind of expression will land somewhere meaningful. The third reason is simply individual variation. Breeds differ in their physical expressiveness. Individual personalities differ even within breeds. Some dogs are naturally more demonstrative and physical, while others communicate in ways that are more subtle. Neither is better or worse. They are just different voices. So what do you do with all of this? What is the most important takeaway from everything we have talked about today? It is actually quite simple. When your dog stretches to greet you, pause. Make eye contact. Say something soft. Reach down and offer a touch if they want it. What you are doing in that moment is completing a conversation that your dog initiated. You are confirming, in terms they understand, that their message was received. And every time that exchange happens, every time they reach out and you reach back, you are doing something quietly profound. You are strengthening a bond that, from your dog's perspective, is one of the most important relationships in their entire life. We spend a lot of time talking about what we give our dogs. The food, the walks, the toys, the training. But there is a whole layer of this relationship that runs beneath all of that, built entirely out of moments exactly like this one. A stretch in a doorway. A pair of paws pressed into the floor. A dog looking up at you and saying, in the only way they know how, "I am so glad you are home." That is not nothing. That is everything. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who has a dog, because there is a good chance they have seen this moment 100 times and never fully understood what it meant. And if your dog does this to you, go find them right now and let them know you got the message.